I have not shaved at the time of this video. I know. Shut up. Hello everybody, my name is Deb, and today I am going to be giving a spoiler-free review of something very popular that just came out, and honestly I think is pretty good. We're talking about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which came out, I believe, like a month or two ago now at this point, so most people probably already have an opinion on it. But I feel like it's, with the boom of FNAF stuff, some people may still be on the fence or may not even know there's a movie. Here it is. If you don't believe me, we can pop it out and, discs. So, the first main order of business is obviously who develops this movie, first of all. I don't know why I said develops. For others, no, this is a Blumhouse Productions. Blumhouse are the people that made Halloween Kills, Get Out, Belko Experiment, or whatever that movie was. Not very many great movies, but first off, this blows that all out of the water. So, if you're worried about it being a terrible movie because it's Blumhouse, you'll be taken aback because this movie's pretty high quality. So, the main thing here is, this is based on the video game Five Nights at Freddy's. It is a very accurate movie without being too accurate, because there are some things in the movie that actually differ from the game. There are some characters and some animatronics in there that were not. This is based on the first Five Nights at Freddy's, by the way. This is the first Five Nights at Freddy's, so obviously there's a lot of the original cast. But there's some characters in there that were not in the original FNAF one. Obviously because it's a movie, and no, just because you're sitting around for 5 nights, the movie does not consist of a person sitting in a chair, closing doors for 4 hours or so. There's more to it than meets the eye. Another good thing, too, is actually the actors, the main actors in specific. The night guard, Josh Hutcherson, why the fuck can I not say that? He's the guy that played Peeta in the Hunger Games. And then you have Matthew Lillard, who has many roles, but is mostly known for his role as live-action Shaggy from the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. Which, if you think that makes him terrible, no, he actually does a very good job. I will not say who Matthew plays in the movie, because you are going to have to see that for yourself. Another fun thing, though, to note is that for all of the FNAF people who are so curious about this, there is a MatPat and 2 Corey Kenshin promos in the movie. I think it would have been cooler if we had a little bit more. Maybe we could have gotten Daco or 8-Bit Ryan or, literally anyone else. We couldn't get Markiplier because at the time in this movie, Markiplier was working on Iron Lung. So we couldn't get Markiplier in here. Another thing, too, is that the soundtrack of this movie goes surprisingly hard. There isn't many there aren't many songs that appear in the movie. However, though, a majority of the songs that do appear in the movie go very hard, and there's a very special song in the credits that makes this even better. Once again, I won't say what it is, but it is something that most FNAF fans will know. In terms of, actual, bloody content, the horror-y, murdery part of Five Nights at Freddy's, there's not really much of that. You can very clearly see there's a point in the movie where there is some violence, but it doesn't go into, excruciating detail or anything. You don't see any entrails or smashed-in heads or anything, so if you're trying to, think that there's going to be, excessive amounts of gore, no, not the movie. Matter of fact, there's hardly any gore in this movie. There's hardly any blood in this movie, surprisingly. There are, once again, some characters that just... There's a train in the background. There are some characters in this movie that were not in the originals. Probably for story prosperity, make the story a little more cohesive for what they're working with the movie. Also, for all those curious, this movie is made with Scott Cawthon, not Steelwool Studios. So, they got the original creator to work on this as opposed to using Steelwool, which makes the movie a lot better. Another thing, too, is that this movie isn't too long. I believe it's only like an hour and a half to 2 hours, which is about on time. Another good thing I like about this movie is it's pretty much just straight into the action. Like, there's not a lot of filler, which does leave a lot of questions, but, for what it is, they're just straight into it, There's no weird, build up with what happened before or anything. Just straight into it. You're going right in. There's a little bit of build up, but there's not too much. So that's pretty much just like a lot of the keynotes. There are a lot of downsides. For example, some of the characters they chose to bring in are a little questioning. For all those who don't know, they've made a deal to make 2 more of these, so we'll see FNAF 2 and 3 movies. The choice of which the characters they chose to bring in is a little strange to be introduced in the first movie, although I think that's just because they've only chosen to work with 3 movies, whereas suppose if they have done the entire analogy being FNAF 1, 2, 3, 4, such a location, I feel they could have done a little more, but they stuck with only 1, 2, and 3, so it's pretty cool. I feel like the bonus content could have been a little better, because the bonus content pretty much contains pretty much a little, I guess, documentary on bringing it from the game to the movies. I guess I'll look at the animatronics and Five Nights in 3 Dimensions, which I'm assuming is like a little extravaganza with this movie or something that allows you to view it in 3D. Or it could be literally the entirety of the movie, but you can watch it with 3D goggles on. Another thing is that there's not really much screen time with the actual animatronics, which I don't particularly like, but considering the scenes they do appear in, they are animated quite good. Also, here's a little bit of trivia. All of these animatronics here, Freddy is the only one that's played by a human. The other 3 are actual animatronics. So, and honestly though, I could not tell a difference. Like, I knew that before going into the movie. That was the only thing I knew, but, not the basics, but, you legit cannot tell that Freddy's played by a human, so I do wish there was a little more animatronic involvement, considering the movie is, mostly, and, literally the box art contains the fucking animatronics here. And because the movie's pretty much just fast, paced at all time, it doesn't really give a lot of time for a lot of explanations towards the things, which does leave for a lot of theory crafting, which I'm going to assume will be solved in the second movie, which will then pave its own for the third movie to sort of tie everything together and finalize. Honestly, though, I was a huge fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, and then I stopped being a fan around the time Sister Location dropped. And then by the time Security Breach dropped, I was totally out of the franchise. But I will say, as someone who has followed Five Nights at Freddy's essentially through its entire growth, from being, just this to being the literal powerhouse that it is, to it's now selling Funko Pops and other licensed pieces of collectibles and merch. As someone who's been following it essentially from the very beginning, this does a very good job at drawing you back in. It does a very good job at making you sort of crave Five Nights at Freddy's again. Am I going to go out of my way to play a Five Nights at Freddy's game? No. I don't own any. The only one I own is the first Help Wanted, which I don't particularly really plan on replaying. But this did a very good job at making me actually excited. Because I was thoroughly excited throughout a majority of the movie. And by majority, I mean pretty much all of it. There's some references in there and some other things that you'll see. There's a little bit of stuff missing. Like, there's not really much mentioning, like, the bite of 87 or a lot of the other stuff that happened, like the bite of 83 or any of that stuff. So there's none of that involved in here. That might be for the second movie, but from someone who, once again, used to, like, follow Five Nights at Freddy's to a T, and hasn't been following it for a long time now, this has definitely revived my interest in Five Nights at Freddy's again. So if you're someone who followed the series like I did, you're going to really love this movie. This movie's going to be great. If you're someone who didn't particularly follow the franchise, or hated the franchise, or just generally has no idea anything about the franchise, you're not going to really find it to be all that cool. It's fairly enjoyable, you know. I'm surprised they did, like, a horror movie sort of aspect with it. Oh, by the way, it's not really a horror movie. There's not jump scares or anything. Literally, there's none. I think there might be, like, 2, and those can be considered a jump scare. So there's not really much horror, which is, you know, interesting. But my final verdict on the FNAF movie is, if you were a longtime fan of Five Nights at Freddy's and you're debating on seeing this movie, watch it. You will love it, and it'll trigger a hyperfixation on FNAF again for you. If you're someone who doesn't particularly care for the franchise, you're probably not gonna really want to see it, unless you have an opportunity to watch it for free, in which case I'd say go for it. But, you know, if you don't particularly care for the franchise, you won't particularly care for the movie. Although I will say, if you're someone like me who followed it for a long time and dropped off, you will be fairly surprised how good this movie is. So, personally, this wouldn't be one of my favorites of all time, because that would put it up there with the likes of, like, the Sonic movies, which I don't think this could ever beat. But if I needed a list of my favorite gaming movies, or videos that are related to gaming, I would have to put number 1, Sonic 2, number 2, the first Sonic movie, number 3, Detective Pikachu, number 4, this, number 5, the Mario movie. I know that's going to catch me some heat, but also, I'm not really the biggest Nintendo fan in the world. I grew up with this more than I did any Nintendo property. So this pretty much holds a special place in my heart. So this is definitely a very good movie. Not any of my favorites. This would probably be like top 20, 15 for my favorites. But all in all, though, they did thoroughly blow me away with this movie. I was really surprised because the bar for fucking this up. Because mind you, this was a movie that was announced years ago, then it was canceled, and then it was randomly brought back. So this movie had a huge potential for fuck-ups. This had a astronomically high level of fuck-ups that could have been done. And there's really only one scene in the entire movie that's kind of unbearable, but it's a relatively short one, so you're not really stuck with it. All in all, I feel like they definitely could have done a little bit more pacing. They could have made the movie a little longer, so they could have had some more plot stuff in there. But all in all, I would give this like a strong 8 out of 10 if you are a diehard FNAF fan, or someone like me. If you're not a particularly present FNAF fan, if you're someone who dislikes the franchise, or someone who has no idea anything about FNAF at all, this will be like maybe a 6.5 out of 10. I will say though, there is also one scene after the credits that links to more to come that I will not say, because once again this is spoiler free, so you're going to have to watch the movie for yourself to figure that out, or just watch someone else's review on the movie. you do whatever you want to do. But point being, if you are a FNAF fan, or someone who hasn't been a FNAF fan for a long time, but would try to get back into it, this is the way to do it. This is way better than it had any right to be, and quite frankly, I'm really excited to see where they go with the second movie and the third movie. So, there is my review on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. If you have the opportunity to watch it, take it. If you like it, that's great. If you don't end up liking it, well, I mean, chances are you probably are going out your way to see it, and someone's probably either already owned it and is showing it to you, or you're watching it for free, hopefully. So, even if you don't end up liking it, it's still a fairly good movie in that regard. You'd be surprised, though, because there's not a lot of office defending. Matter of fact, I think a majority of the movie is not spent in the office. So, that's pretty cool. Also, by the way, take a shot for every time I've said the word in this video. So, there's my review. Also, I wanted to get a video out because I will not be here Thursday, as I will be gone all week. So the other time I'll be able to make a video is sometime in the new year. So that is my video for this. I got another video on my phone too, just so I can upload something while I'm gone, but this will be the last quality video I made on my PlayStation and shit. So for a reminder of the score, for FNAF fans, 8 out of 10. For non-FNAF fans, 6.5 out of 10. So use some of the points I said to maybe decide if you want to go see the movie for yourself, or if you want to stay away from it. I will personally continue to watch this movie whenever I want to, because it's great. I love it, and it's one of my favorite gaming movies of all time. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!